Right.
All right, guys.
Hello, everyone. We're coming to you live from Next Academy. My name is Arif.
And I'm Audrey.
So, guys, today we're going to have a Q&A session, and our topic is how coding can unlock your future. So, we've asked you guys to ask us any questions that you might have, and Audrey here will try her best to answer them.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. We will definitely be monitoring our Facebook as well as our Instagram, all right?
Yeah.
So excited to actually answer some of the questions that you guys have right now.
Okay, so...
In the meantime, yeah, you share with us some of the questions.
Yeah, so our first question comes from a guy named Lau, and he asks, I see that there are a lot of people talking about the importance of coding, but what is coding exactly?
That is really interesting. In fact, I've seen a lot of people asking me that question. It's like, I know, coding is important, but why is it important? What is it exactly? And this has been a question that a lot of people ask me quite recently, right? And I realized that, yeah, it's something that a lot of people do not know. So what is coding? In the most simplest term, coding is actually just talking to the computer. Just as simple as that, right? When we say coding means, talking to the computer. When we say, it's just like us, right? How do we communicate?
In English.
Yeah,
right?
So we communicate by talking with our mouth.
Yeah.
Right? So the term is called talking. But the way you communicate with the computer, the term is called coding.
Right.
Yeah. And you see, like for us, when we communicate, we use what? We use English. We can use Bahasa pun boleh, right? Yeah, so we can use different languages. The same thing goes with communicating with a computer. You can actually use different languages as well. So our computer also understands a range of languages. For example, we have Python, we have Ruby, we have JavaScript, Java, C++, C, C#. So the list goes on and on and on. Yeah, so just think of coding as reflective of the actual world.
Right. It's basically just a way to communicate with the computer using languages, right?
Yes. I think maybe just to add really quickly is when you have the ability to communicate with the computer, what then can you do? I think that's more powerful. That's a bigger question, right? You can do a lot of things, right? Some people do, scripting. Some people build apps. Some people build websites. Some people get into data science, machine learning, AI. So when you're able to communicate with the computer, you can get into those things by asking the computer to, hey, come, let's do an app together. Oh, come, let's do data science together. So this is a way of, making use of computers, letting computer understand what you really want to do.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So let's move on to our second question.
Yeah.
From Mohal, he asks, how is the whole AI thing related to coding? So AI as in artificial intelligence. So he wants to know how it is related to coding and programming.
All right. So when it comes to AI, you see, the thing is that when it comes to coding, as mentioned, it's just communicating with the computer, right? So when you learn how to communicate with the computer, you can do a lot of stuff. So imagine that learning is just fundamental. Coding is just fundamental to learning a lot of other things. But under coding, for example, I want to be focusing on websites, or I want to be focusing on apps, right? Or I want to be focusing on data science or machine learning or AI. They are all different disciplines altogether. So how is AI related to coding? Is this. After you learn how to code, right, you can take advantages of what we call the libraries within. Let's say you learn how to code in Python, and you can take advantages of the libraries that Python already have, which are related to AI, that a lot of people have developed it already, and you can use them to implement it for your AI projects. And then, of course, then for you AI, like you also need to understand, what are you trying to implement artificial intelligence on? So understanding the AI, the concept, what is behind it, that's entirely different. So basically coding plus understanding, the theory, the concepts, of how AI works, and you merge them together, you have the ability to apply it on anything you want.
All right. So I hope that answered your question, Mohal.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the next question from Johnny Boy.
Johnny Boy.
Yeah,
okay.
Johnny Boy. What are the best programming languages to learn in 2019? So Audrey, if you were to choose the best languages as a beginner, as someone who wanted to start coding, what would be the languages you would choose?
Okay, so I think before we even jump into languages, because languages is just choosing English, Malay, Chinese. Before you even jump to that, I think first there's a few things to think about. Number one is, how do you want to start your journey as a beginner?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first question. Then the second question is, what is the use case, right? So the first question, when people say, oh, you know what, Audrey, I want to start learning to code, right? Instead of saying what language should I learn, maybe you should be asking, how should I start learning, right? To make sure that my coding journey is a lot better. So I will always recommend people hey, you know what, when you first start off coding, you want to have that visual feedback loop, which is why I always tell people, start off with building websites, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So those are the three things you want to start off with. And when you're doing that, what you want to do is to get used to coding, right? And then after that, getting used to it, being really comfortable to get that feedback loop, right? Like the stuff that you code, the stuff that you created, and then you can see
immediately. Yeah, you can see the output, the results right in front of you, right?
Right in front of your eyes, right? So when you get comfortable with that, then that's the time where you can go to a more abstract level, where when you're just when you go deeper, where you're just really focusing on programming, algorithms, logics, and so on. Those can be quite abstract, right? So so you can see that we are actually moving slowly. At first, getting you used to coding with your hands, right? Getting used to the whole syntax and languages and stuff like that. But eventually, what we want to transition you is to get you to move to the thought process. How do you problem solve? What is changing your solutions to code, right? You can see that we first need to get you comfortable first before bringing you into that coding mindset.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So our next question comes from Eunice Kemira. I'm pronouncing your name right. Her question is, as a child, can I learn programming? So I think what she's asking is, can someone who's really young learn programming?
Yes. Right. So I think as a child, I think it's very similar to the question just now. Just on the question, I think I only answered half of it. Sorry, guys. So the first part of it, we are talking about how do you learn as a beginner. Then the second part, it's time to talk about the second part, right? How do you learn? What language to learn?
Yeah.
Right. The second part is always the use case, right? Because different languages, there's no such thing as best language, right? Because different languages have different use case, and that's the fact, right? You can't still say English is the best, right? Because let's say in Malaysia, we still speak in Malay, right? You can't say Chinese is the best, right? Because if you go to another place, sometimes people just don't understand Chinese at all. So there are use cases, very very specific use cases for coding languages. But what I would say is Python as a start. Python will be quite good. I would say it will be really good because it's
Python.
Python like snake. Okay. Because it's versatile, right? Why is it versatile, right? With Python, people build apps with Python. Okay, that's one. Not just that. People. Python is this language where it's libraries. We talk about libraries just now. So it has a lot of other libraries as well. For example, machine learning, AI, and data science. Python has the most robust library. And if you ever want to get into machine learning, AI, or what's it called, or data science, they will ask you to learn Python. You will need to learn Python.
Right.
So for us, it's that, hey, you know what? Python makes sense, right? Because Python opens a lot. No, learning Python is like having a key that opens up different doors. So
good analogy.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So Python, I think Python would be good. It's not to say that other languages don't have that. As mentioned, the use cases, who's using it, the community behind the language matters. So let's just say the community behind, let's just say for Ruby, another language, the community behind Ruby uses it for, app building.
Yeah.
And everyone is very, very much focused on building apps, right? And they have amazing frameworks for building apps very, very fast. Okay, but when it comes to Python, right, the community is a lot more diverse. You have people building apps, you have people focusing on data science, machine learning, AI. So what you need to see is what is the community behind it, and the community itself will develop the whole, the libraries and so on, and then it will extend the use cases.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, maybe you can repeat the next question.
Go to the next question. All right.
The learning as a kid.
Oh yeah, as a child, can I learn programming?
Okay, so as a child, can you learn programming? Yes, of course.
Yes.
That's no problem. But by the end of the day, the big question is, how do you get started? Sometimes when you're learning programming, it can be very daunting, right? Think about this. When you actually take a look at code, it can be very scary. Maybe let me just try to see if I can find like some random code for you guys to see. Okay, are you guys able to see this code? Yeah. Okay, you see this colorful thing, right? So sometimes what people see is that when they learn to code, it's very daunting because you see the colorful thing with full of really weird characters, weird words, and things like this. So what I will always suggest, especially for younger people, is to build up your computational thinking. Right? Coding is not just about learning the language. Learning the language is very easy. Like for us, right? Learning ABCs.
Yeah.
Is it hard? It's easy, right?
Pretty easy.
Yeah. But the thing is, the hard part is not learning the ABCs. The harder part is actually being able to convey what you want to say to the other person, right? If I know my ABCs but I don't know how to form a sentence, it's going to be useless
Yeah, what's
as
the
well.
point, right?
Yeah. So, but one key thing with coding, a few things that you need to know is, number one is, of course, you need to know the language, right? The second thing that is very crucial, which a lot of people never think about or often miss out, is computational thinking. So when you merge them together, basically, you can communicate with the computer, right? Both of them together.
Merge it
together to communicate with the computer.
Right.
But I think for a kid, for someone who's younger, it's good to start off with computational thinking. This logical thought process, problem solving, those are the key things. You can go to websites such as code.org, so code.org, or you can also, if you have an iPhone, you can download this game called Lightbot, Lightbot. And it seems really easy, it's like playing games, but really, when you're playing those games, it's actually computational thinking. You need to actually think, how can you move the robot from one place to another place, right? And then when you're able to do that quite proficiently, the next thing you do is that you can attempt some level of coding. So there are a lot of kids coding softwares out there where you don't really need to write crazy code like this yet, but basically it's to train you on computational thinking. And then eventually when you get used to it, you can then attempt on writing real code, writing the scary, colorful code, right? So that's one way for you to progress. I think as a kid, yes, you can definitely code, build stuff, but remember this, you can always start with computational thinking.
Yeah.
Computational thinking will make your coding journey so much easier.
Also, I think if I could add, like, as a kid, like, why don't you just explore as much as you can, right? Like, what do you have to lose? Just discover whatever it is you like, because coding is huge, right?
Yeah.
Just explore whatever you can, because you're just a kid, right? Don't put yourself like too much pressure on yourself. Just learn as much as you want.
Yeah.
And have fun.
Don't be afraid, right? Don't be afraid. Try things out. The only crucial thing is this, right? Sometimes people present things in a way where it's so tough to understand that after a while you just get scared.
Yeah.
Right? It's like back in those days when you're learning how to play the piano, right? You know what my teacher always asked me to, to play what we call skills, right? Every day play the repetitive thing, and I lost interest. But the thing is that I never knew that, piano could be so learning music could be a lot more fun if I were to do the things that I love. If I were to play the music that I love. So when it comes to coding, it's the same thing too. Go explore, right? If you love robotics, go check them out. Play around with robots. Learn how to. There are a lot of kits. Kits are like DIY kit. Those DIY robotic kit where you can where they kind of code quite a number of stuff for you. So all you need to do is put some logic in. So it's not too complex, but it will get you started into the whole idea of what coding can do.
So let's move on to the next question. Coming from Mahmoud Hassan. Will I get left behind if I don't learn coding?
Nice.
I think there's a lot of fear that people might have because if people who don't learn coding, they may have a fear that I'm not going to get hired by companies or stuff like that. So Audrey, what do you think?
I think there's a lot. I mean, it doesn't help that people and the media are saying that computers are taking over the world. 40 to 70% of your jobs will be taken up by computers by 2025.
Yeah.
There is a fear there, right? But I would just say this, what kind of jobs do you think, we think that that will very likely get replaced, and what kind of jobs that won't be replaced? For example, jobs that require a lot of human-to-human communication, right? That requires a lot of creativity or artistic sense. I think those kind of things
those are safer.
Those are safer.
Sort of.
Those are harder to replace, right? Those
right.
are harder to replace because I mean it's humans, right?
Yeah.
I don't think and AI would anytime soon be able to replicate how humans are like. At least not now, right? So I think those jobs will be a lot. Those jobs are a lot more secure. But if you take a look at certain jobs, if you find that there are certain jobs where you can break them down into very simple processes and they are very repetitive, those kind of jobs are easier for people to actually
automate. Stuff,
and robots could potentially take over it. Just an example, there's a period of time where everyone just go like, oh, you know what, accounting or bookkeeping, just an example, accounting, bookkeeping, all those things robots can take over. Yeah, like if consistently you know that, oh, this one is always debit, this one is always credit, right? You can build an AI who just identify those things that, oh, this thing means that it's credit, this thing means that it's debit. And because they are very set, the easier it is for you to set processes to know that this one is, this one is for here, this one is for that, then the easier it is for you to automate those things. And then when AI comes in, AI will also be able to learn faster. And in a way, that's how this whole
human replacement
come about. But maybe the next question is this. Now we know that how robots can replace jobs, right? I think the next big question is, will I get left behind, right? If I don't learn to code. So I think right now, learning to code gives you a certain advantage, right? That where you have the ability, right? Okay, today a lot of things are not fully automated. Learning to code today means that you have a say in how things are going to be automated in the future. Give it another 10 years time, assuming if things are already automated, learning to code means that you have the ability to communicate with the computer on the things that are being done. So you see how different are those things. So so I think depending on your job, certain jobs you're totally fine, but certain jobs you may get left behind when the time comes. But basically what coding, what automation does is that it will take away jobs that they so-called deem as repetitive, that is low value. I think I always want to look at the bright side. The bright side is that it gives mankind the opportunity to stay away from those repetitive jobs.
And evolve, right?
And get into more meaningful things. So in the future, like maybe in the future, people people are given more opportunity to explore their creative side, for example, because I mean, all the stuff are already taken up already.
Yeah.
So look at the bright side. Look at the bright side, but it really depends on the job that you are looking at.
Don't get too scared, alright, man. Just chill, alright? Okay, we have a next question. Brandon1910 asks, how much can I earn with web development?
How much can I earn with
How much
web
money
development?
can you make by becoming a web developer?
Okay, I think right now, it really depends what you're looking at, right? Are you looking at from a job perspective, or are you looking at from a freelancing perspective? So instead of saying how much money can you earn, because earning money is relative. Like some jobs they will pay you more, some jobs they will pay you less. Some companies see you as a very good hire. They are willing to pay top dollars for you. Or if you're mediocre, right, you may not be able to command that sort of fee. So I think instead of just thinking about money, I would just say what opportunities are you able to get into when you know how to code and when you're able to build stuff, right? So for example, with coding, one key thing is that you would be able to learn how to, building websites, building a look and feel of the websites, right? So we call them the front end developers. So these are the people who will combine design, right, and code together to make things happen. And I have friends who actually travel around the world while freelancing on it. It's insane, right?
It's a good life.
Yeah, good life. 3 months in Korea, 3 months here, 3 months there. Wow. Okay, that's one. Then second category would be obviously you can get into building apps, right? And so far, like today, a lot of ideas are coming out compared to those days. A lot of ideas are coming out today, and giving you the opportunity to create things. So I think that is one. There is another opportunity there. Creating apps, systems, right? Maintaining systems. The more traditional, a lot of institutions that use softwares that they have been using the softwares for many years, so it's very hard for them to move over to, let's say, a newer software, for example, banking software. So then there is this category of people where they go and maintain systems, right? So then this number 3. Of course, there are a lot of jobs that also, for example, product managers or the product people. They don't necessarily code anymore, but they will actually need to understand the whole coding process. Because they need to be able to communicate with the tech team, the marketing team, as well as the whole product team, the whole product experience team. And so this person, the product manager, need to have a very good idea on how technology works, right? What is possible, what's not possible, so that you have that category of people as well. Then of course, people who want to get into data science, AI, machine learning, well, those kind of things require you to code. And not just that, I think there is a rise of a very unconventional jobs. For example, there are banks who are recruiting bankers who can code. Yeah, that's interesting, right? So their full-time job is not to be a coder. They are still a banker, but they are recruiting bankers who can code. Why? Because they believe that bankers who can code, they'll bring more value. Not just that, they will make better decisions because they don't, now they don't rely. They have technology at their fingertips, and they are able to, make better decisions with the help of technology. So you will see people now. We have bankers who can code. In the future, I do know that in the future, there may be accountants who can code, right? There are people who are looking for consultants who can code. So it's very interesting to see how even industries today, like the ones that we call the traditional industry, they're also evolving. They're looking for people who can code. Not to be a coder, 9 to 5, like 24/7 coder, no. But to be in the job that they're meant to be, but having that coding element in it, they believe that these people are able to open up entirely new an entirely new way of doing things. Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, we actually have a question from Facebook actually.
Yeah.
Calvin Ng
Yes.
asks, what are the coding skills needed in the near future?
What are the coding skills needed in the near future?
Yeah, I think you sort of answered that already.
But I can repeat it, right? Hi, Calvin.
Hi, hope you're watching.
Okay, so what are the coding skills needed in the near future? Basically, the first thing first is to understand what coding is about, right? As mentioned, coding is just a way to communicate with the computer. That's it. Of course, there are many languages, and every language, they have their own libraries, they have their own frameworks, and so on and so forth. So I think the first thing first is, learning to code and learning how to problem solve with code. That's the most important thing. Because when you learn to code and learn how to express yourself through coding, you know how to problem solve through coding, it means that your fundamentals are good. And that will allow you to jump into different technology in the future. So what I would say is build your fundamentals strong, right? So one way to really start off learning to code to make your life easier, I would say start off with front end because there's a visual feedback loop. So start off with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Over there, you will know if you enjoy the whole process of coding. And then after that, for application sake, I think learn how to build apps, right? That's why that's why I say learn how to build apps so that you know how to create things that you like.
Mm-hmm.
After learning how to build apps, this is what our students do. So a lot of them started off with zero coding knowledge or barely any coding knowledge, and they first start off how to build websites, then they build apps. Then after that, they start venturing by themselves, without external help. They start venturing into machine learning and AI by themselves. Some of them start looking up on how to create programmatic trading programs, by themselves. So you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Coding is just a key.
Right.
It can open a lot of doors. The question is, what doors do you want to open? But of course, you need to make sure that when you're using this key, your fundamentals are very strong, so that this key, have the ability to just open everything else quite easily.
All right.
I hope that answered your questions, Kevin.
Yeah. All right, so actually we're getting a lot of questions since we're talking about coding, how coding can unlock the future, right? We're getting a lot of questions regarding the whole Industrial Revolution 4.0.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, this is a topic that a lot of people aren't really familiar about. So maybe Audrey, since you're the expert here, since you're the pro here, maybe you can explain to the wonderful people what IR4 really is about.
Okay, so when the whole term IR4, what they call it, Industry 4.0, came about, everyone, it always goes like this: Industry 4.0 is coming, jobs will be replaced, coding is very important, we need coding.
Yeah.
And then the next question is so how is it changing? What is Industry 4.0? What is this?
And then everyone freaks out. Right?
Everyone freaks out, but no one knows it.
Yeah.
So basically, so this is the time where I just want to do it a really layman term now, right?
Yeah.
I think those were the days when we first start off. We had they always say the Industry 1.0 would be the steam engine, the water, whatever. So those things came about, right? People were up in arms over it back in those days. Then you get to Industry 2.0.
Yeah, second one.
Assembly lines and whatnot. So Henry Ford, right, the car, that's the one that popularized, everyone being in that whole assembly line, doing one thing at one time. And our education system today actually was based on that. Then Industry 3.0, computers come in, automation come in. Right, so now you can see that a lot of things can be automated. The easiest way is just walk into a factory and you see those hand take the thing, put it here. Right?
Robots.
Robots. Yeah. So automation, a lot of things can be automated these days as well, so which is good. But Industry 4.0, what does that mean? It means it's basically, I would say, a super powered version of Industry 3.0.
Yeah, it builds on Industry 3.0, right? Yeah.
So now what they do is that you have this whole AI, machine learning, everything coming together. So basically, the computer becomes smart. So last time, the automation is just take this thing, put it here, take this thing, put here. But now you're making it smarter. You'll be giving this machine data, and this machine will now be able to make decisions by themselves, giving them the ability to make decisions as well. So I think I wanted to do this illustration.
Yeah, you got an example? Yeah.
Yeah.
People are still confused right now. You need a visual example.
Okay, visual example.
Illustration.
All right. So I think the blue color side would be good. Okay. Actually, sorry guys. Okay, so just imagine this. You're in a factory. So this is machine number 1. Okay, you guys see this. Okay, machine number 1. So machine number 1, and then you have machine number 2, and then you have machine number 3. Okay. So right now, all the machines will be doing their own jobs. Okay, this machine will take this, and then pass it here. This machine will take this, and then pass it here, and so on and so forth. Okay, so but what happens? This machine kind of like something wrong. So capacity fell, right? This machine fell capacity by maybe 50%. Okay, so it's very sad. It's a very sad machine. Okay,
it's almost dying. Basically.
It's almost dying. So right now, what you need to do is that the people will need to monitor this. Oh, machine down, machine down. Then they will need to kind of like, hey, machine down. Let's reduce this. Let's reduce this. Let's reduce the capacity and so on and so forth. So what you notice is that things can't. I mean, it's automated, but at the same time, people need to have more intervention in there.
Yeah, they have to manually do it.
Yeah, but what is Industry 4.0? Just imagine Industry 4.0 now is that all these 3 machines are talking to each other, right? Anything happen to this machine go like, oh, okay, this machine go like, hey, machine 2 spoiled already. Something wrong with this machine. So machine 3 will say, okay, machine 2 is capacity went down by 50%. So it is not going to be sending all the items to me. So maybe I should reduce my capacity by 50% as well, right? Because I don't need full capacity anymore. That would be too much, right?
Yeah, great.
So this machine will know what to do, right? I would reduce it so that I could save power, save money, and so on and so forth. And then this machine will look at it and say, oh yeah, this machine is down 50%. So it's really no point for me to go 100% because everything will be stuck here, for example.
Right.
So maybe this machine 1 will say, maybe I should drop it to 70%. So 50% will still come here, but at least I have 20% here. When this machine come back alive again, at least there is that continuity.
Yeah.
So you can actually imagine how these machines are able to. These machines are now interconnected.
Yeah, they're communicating with each other.
Communicating with each other and talking to each other. So now I think with Industry 4.0, the first thing that you can see being impacted would be obviously the factories, right? But the bigger question, like I always just imagine, so what is beyond the factory? Back in those days, when we're talking about automation, it always started off with factories, and then you have the machines holding things, right? But then later on, people built apps to automate things around us, to connect us with things, right? We have Grab, we have Fave, right? People are using these things, using technology now to automate stuff, to connect people even closer. So with Industry 4.0, obviously, I think factories will start off with it first. But my excitement comes with, so how are people going to be translating it into our everyday lives?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit Black Mirror. It's going to be a bit scary, but
it's going to be freaky.
Yeah, but imagine this, right? There are sensors everywhere. There are cameras everywhere, right? I think of scenarios like that. Now imagine that this is a housing area, and everyone goes to work over here. So everyone goes down to work. So I guess smart systems will even be able to say, hey, you know what? 70% or 80% of people will come to this place to work, right? Let's reduce the power capacity here, and let's save power in this place, and then send it to the city, right? And the best part is this, all these are you can even track real-time data.
Right.
So you can say that, oh, well, it's an everyday occurrence that people will come here. But what happens if, right, suddenly a lot of people fell sick? So a lot of people would stay home during a period of time. All this real-life data is going to be transmitted to all this, technology, and they are going to say, hey, Dan, it turns out that 30% of the population fell sick, right? And only 50% of people are going to work, and 50% of the people are staying at home to recuperate. Okay, now our power distribution needs to be very equal, 50-50.
Right.
So these are like some of the smart way of doing things. And I think another one would be in the future. What I see is that like, you know, they always say smart city, like in China, there are a lot of cameras everywhere, right? So imagine, so for them, I believe they're actually doing it. For them, right, they're detecting everyone's faces, you know, and detecting who is this people. They could actually detect, you know, from another country, someone did a crime in this country, real life, real time, and this person is flying to China, and then this person, where is this person walking? This person right now is in Shanghai, then next thing in Shanghai, oh, he's flying to Beijing. So you get what I mean? All this real-time data can happen, and then monitoring can be very specific to this group of people. So it sounds scary, but I think, you know, all this, and the best part is this: you don't need a human being to monitor it; the machine will monitor. This is a high alert person who's traveling from this place to this place.
So in a way, like, you're always being watched, right? Your next move is sort of like predetermined by a machine. It's pretty scary, man.
It's pretty scary to see what it can become. But right now, the first, I guess, Industry 4.0, when I would call it in its infancy stage, will obviously start off with all the machines, the factories, and so on. So we are not there yet, right? But I think we'll get there one day.
All right.
AI versus software engineering, which one you prefer and why? Okay. Thomas, right? Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Thomas. Welcome.
Okay. You see, the thing is this: when you're doing AI, so as mentioned, coding is very broad, right? Coding is communicating with the computer, but learning AI is just one discipline where you need to learn coding to actually kind of implement AI. And software engineering as well, right? So when I'm saying software engineering, right now let's just use ads as an example. So ad building ads. Okay. So the question is this: which do you prefer? I think why not combine both of them?
Merge, man. We're talking about merging this now.
So imagine this. AI. Imagine you say, oh, I build an AI software, right? And that's great. You can build an AI software, but then assuming if you want this AI software to be accessible to other people as well, how do you do it? How do you make it accessible, right? So what people do is that people build ads with AI software included in it, and that's one way to go. So I think if you're gonna ask me, you know, which one do I prefer? Obviously, you know, AI sounds fun and everything, but I think to be able to really, let's say, if I were to build something and to express myself in creating something, creating something that everyone can use, I think I will need both of them to work together, hand in hand.
All right.